Do you know why? At some point in life, almost everyone experiences this feeling. You start something new, and it feels electric. Your mind is alive. Your heart is in it. For the first time in a long time, you feel present. And then, something changes. The excitement fades. The fire cools down. The thing you once couldn't stop thinking about now feels heavy. You still show up. You still try. But inside, you're bored. Drained, disconnected. And the worst part, you don't even know why. So you blame yourself. You tell yourself, I'm lazy, I lack discipline, I never finish what I start. You watch others stay consistent. You compare, you judge. And slowly, that excitement turns into guilt. But what if the problem was never you? What if boredom isn't a weakness? What if boredom is actually a signal? A quiet message your mind is trying to send you. But no one ever taught you how to listen to it. Here's the strange truth. The people who feel this boredom the most are often the people who care the most. Not the lazy ones, but the thinkers, the dreamers, the ones who want meaning, not just routine. The ones who don't want life to feel empty on repeat. You don't get bored because you're weak. You get bored because your mind grows faster than your environment. Because once you understand something, it stops feeding you. And no one tells you this. So you think something is wrong with you. But nothing is. So today, we're not talking about motivation. No fake positivity. No, just be disciplined advice. Today, we're talking about the real reason why you get bored of everything you once loved. And once you see it, you'll never blame yourself the same way again. Let's begin. In the beginning, everything feels magical. A new goal, a new idea, a new version of yourself. For a moment, the past feels distant. Your doubts go quiet. Your mistakes don't matter. Because you're no longer stuck in who you were, you're focused on who you could become. And something strange happens inside your mind. Your brain lights up, not because you've achieved anything yet, but because of possibility. This is important, because what you're feeling isn't motivation. It's chemistry. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, isn't released when you succeed. It's released when you anticipate success. When you expect something good to happen. That's why beginnings feel so powerful. Before the hard work, before the routine, before reality sets in, your mind starts creating the future for you. You imagine it clearly. The success, the recognition, the confidence, the freedom. You picture yourself winning, being respected, finally feeling in control of your life. And here's the part most people don't realize. Your brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. So when you picture that future, your brain reacts as if it's already happening. It rewards you early. It gives you energy, focus, hope. That's why starting feels so good. Better than continuing, better than finishing. Because in the beginning, nothing is heavy yet. There are no expectations, no pressure, no proof required, just potential. But this is also why the beginning never lasts. Because the moment imagination fades, the brain stops paying in advance. And that's when things start to feel different. Here's the part nobody prepares you for. Novelty always fades. No matter how exciting something feels at the start, your brain adapts. It has to. The human mind is designed to normalize everything. Pain, pleasure, success. What once felt new slowly becomes familiar. What once felt special quietly becomes normal. And normal doesn't excite the brain. So something changes inside you. The dopamine drops, not all at once, but gradually. And when it does, you don't feel inspired anymore. You don't feel driven. You feel bored, restless, unmotivated, disconnected from the very thing that once made you feel alive. And this is where most people make a mistake. They don't recognize boredom for what it is. They interpret it as a warning sign. They start telling themselves, this isn't my passion. I chose the wrong path. Maybe I should start something new. So they quit, not because the goal is wrong, but because the feeling changed. But boredom doesn't mean the path is wrong. It means the brain has caught up. It means your mind has learned the pattern. It understands the routine. It knows what to expect. And once the brain knows what comes next, it stops rewarding you for it. The excitement didn't disappear because the goal lost its value. It disappeared because your brain no longer sees it as new. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they mistake familiarity for failure. They leave right at the moment when growth becomes quiet. When progress stops feeling dramatic and starts becoming real. We've been sold a dangerous idea. An idea that sounds inspiring, but quietly destroys consistency. Find your passion, and you'll never get bored. It sounds beautiful, it feels comforting, it gives people hope, but it's not true. Passion is not a permanent state. It's not a personality trait. It's not something you find once and keep forever. Passion is chemistry, a chemical reaction in the brain. And chemicals fade. Even the things you genuinely love, the things that once made time disappear, will feel boring at times. Not because you stopped loving them, but because the brain stopped reacting to them. Because love without challenge slowly turns into routine. And routine doesn't feel exciting. It feels quiet, predictable, heavy. This is where people get confused. They think boredom means the passion is gone. But what's actually gone is novelty. The mind no longer feels stretched, no longer surprised, no longer challenged. So it stops sending excitement signals. And this is why people quit things they're actually good at. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded. They reached competence. They understood the system. They mastered the basics. They knew what would happen next. And once the mind knows the outcome, it stops paying attention. Success removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is what fuels passion. This is why beginners look more excited than experts. Why amateurs feel more alive than professionals. Not because they're better, but because everything is still unknown. So when boredom shows up, it's not asking you to quit. It's asking you to level up, to raise the difficulty, to introduce resistance, to grow again. Because passion doesn't die when things get hard. It dies when things get too easy. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. Something most people don't like to admit, especially once they've made it. Success is quieter than we expect. When you imagine success, you imagine a feeling, a constant sense of satisfaction, confidence that never fades, a life where motivation just stays. You imagine waking up proud every day, feeling fulfilled, finally at peace. But real success doesn't work that way. Real success is subtle. Once you reach a certain level, something shifts inside you. Your standards rise. What used to impress you doesn't anymore. Your expectations change. What once felt difficult now feels normal. And without realizing it, your brain resets its baseline. This part matters, because the human mind measures happiness by change, not status. So what once felt like progress now feels like maintenance. You're no longer climbing, you're just holding. And holding doesn't feel rewarding. This is why achievers feel restless. Why successful people feel bored. Why ambitious people, people who should feel grateful, sometimes feel empty. Not because they lost purpose, but because they lost contrast. They forgot what it felt like to struggle, to chase, to doubt, to grow visibly. Without struggle, growth becomes invisible. And when growth is invisible, the brain assumes nothing is happening. So it stops celebrating. It stops releasing excitement. It goes quiet. This is the moment people start asking dangerous questions. Is this all there is? Why don't I feel happier? Why am I still searching? But the problem isn't success. The problem is expecting success to feel loud forever. It never does. Because success doesn't give meaning, movement does. And the moment you stop moving forward, even at a high level, the mind starts feeling empty. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you're human. Most people believe they quit because they lack discipline. They tell themselves they're inconsistent, unfocused, weak-willed. But discipline isn't the real issue. The real issue is something almost no one talks about. Identity completion. At the beginning of any journey, you're not just chasing a goal, you're building a version of yourself. You become the learner, the beginner, the explorer. You're curious, open, hungry for growth. And every small win reinforces that identity. Every video you watch, every skill you practice, every step forward. Your brain isn't just tracking progress, it's tracking who you are becoming. But here's what happens next. At some point, that identity is complete. You're no longer a beginner. You're no longer discovering everything for the first time. The transformation you needed already happened. And once that identity is built, your brain does something unexpected. It starts searching for the next change. Not because you're bored, not because you're lazy, but because you're wired to evolve. The human mind is not designed to stay the same. It's designed to outgrow itself. But society doesn't teach us how to evolve. It teaches us to stay consistent at all costs. To repeat, to grind, to never question. So when boredom shows up, we label it as failure. We shame ourselves for losing interest. Instead of asking the real question, what version of me has already been completed? Because boredom isn't the end. It's a signal, a sign that the identity you were building is no longer enough. And something new is waiting to begin. Pause. Boredom isn't just a lack of excitement. It's something deeper. It's the absence of meaningful tension. When life becomes predictable, when you already know what tomorrow looks like, your mind loses resistance. And without resistance, there's no engagement. Nothing to push against, nothing to solve, nothing to overcome. So the mind goes quiet. That's why boredom often feels like emptiness. Not sadness, not pain, not even frustration, just a dull, weightless numbness. You're not hurting, you're unstimulated, and an unstimulated mind does something dangerous. It starts questioning everything. Why am I doing this? Does this even matter? Is this all my life is going to be? Not because something is wrong, but because nothing is challenging anymore. The human mind needs friction. It needs uncertainty, resistance, a problem that isn't solved yet. Without that tension, attention fades. Time stretches, days blur together, you're busy, but not engaged. And that's the most exhausting state to be in. Because the mind isn't suffering, it's searching for something that pulls it forward. Something that demands effort, something that makes growth visible again. Boredom isn't telling you to escape. It's telling you that your life has become too smooth, too predictable, too safe, and meaning never lives in comfort. It lives in tension. Pause. Here's the trap most people fall into. When boredom shows up, they don't sit with it. They run from it. They chase the beginning again. A new goal, a new hobby, a new dream, a fresh notebook, a clean slate, another chance to feel alive. And for a moment, it works. The excitement comes back. The energy returns. Hope feels real again. You tell yourself, this time is different. This one feels right. This is what I was missing. But slowly, quietly, the same feeling returns. The motivation fades. The interest weakens. The boredom creeps back in. And that's when confusion starts. Because you did everything right. You changed the activity. You followed the excitement. You trusted your feelings. So why does it keep happening? Because the problem was never the activity. It was the expectation. The belief that excitement should last forever. That passion should stay loud. That interest should never fade. But excitement is not meant to be permanent. It's meant to start things, not sustain them. Restarting gives temporary relief. It resets the dopamine. It recreates possibility. It makes you feel hopeful again. But long term, it creates instability. You begin to doubt yourself, your choices, your direction. You start wondering, why can't I stick to anything? Why does everything feel temporary? What am I missing? What you're missing isn't the right beginning. It's the understanding of what comes after the beginning. Because growth doesn't come from restarting. It comes from learning how to stay, even when the feeling changes. You don't fix boredom by quitting. You fix boredom by going deeper. Because novelty fades, but depth doesn't. Depth replaces excitement with meaning. So instead of asking, is this exciting? Do I still feel motivated? Does this spark joy today? Ask a different question. Is this meaningful? Is this shaping who I'm becoming? Is this building something that lasts? Meaning doesn't give instant dopamine. It doesn't hit you with a rush. It doesn't feel loud. It doesn't announce itself. Meaning works quietly. It shows up later, weeks from now, months from now, years from now. Depth is where mastery lives. Not surface-level understanding, but true competence. The kind that makes you calm in situations that used to scare you. Depth is where purpose grows. Not purpose you talk about, but purpose you feel in your bones. The kind that doesn't need validation. Depth is where confidence stabilizes. Not confidence from praise, but confidence from knowing you can handle complexity. And here's the part most people overlook. Depth is quiet. No fireworks, no constant excitement, no emotional highs. Just small, invisible progress. The kind you don't feel today, but suddenly realize one day, I've changed. And that realization is more powerful than any beginning ever was. Because excitement makes you start. But depth is what makes you become. Most people confuse passion with purpose. They sound similar, but they work very differently. Passion is emotional. It's how you feel in the moment. Purpose is structural. It's what stays even when emotions change. Passion is loud at the beginning. It pushes you forward with excitement and energy. But passion depends on mood. And mood is unstable. Purpose doesn't care how you feel today. It cares about what you're building over time. This is why passion alone rarely lasts. The moment excitement fades, people assume something is wrong. They say, I don't feel passionate anymore, when the truth is, they simply move past the beginner phase. Purpose begins where passion slows down. Passion gets you started. Purpose keeps you going. Passion asks, do I feel excited? Purpose asks, does this still matter? When you have purpose, boredom doesn't feel dangerous. It feels temporary. You don't rely on motivation. You rely on alignment. And alignment is quieter than excitement, but much stronger in the long run. What if boredom isn't a sign to quit? What if boredom is simply a sign that you've reached the surface limit of what you're doing? Boredom usually appears when the learning curve slows, progress becomes less visible, results feel predictable. This is where most people leave. Not because they hate the work, but because the work stopped entertaining them. The mistake is thinking that boredom means disinterest. Often, boredom means familiarity. And familiarity isn't failure, it's transition. It's the moment where you stop being a beginner and start facing real depth. Depth isn't exciting, it's demanding. It asks for patience instead of novelty, commitment instead of motivation. That's why restarting feels easier than continuing. A new beginning gives instant energy. Depth asks for effort without applause. But this stage, the boring, quiet stage, is where real growth happens. Boredom doesn't mean you chose the wrong thing. Sometimes it means you chose something real. You're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not lost. You're just at the stage where shallow excitement ends and real growth begins. Boredom is not the enemy. It's the doorway, and what you do next determines whether you keep running in circles or finally move forward. If this video made you feel understood, then stay. This channel isn't about motivation. It's about clarity.